A pleasant morning to everyone, and welcome to the StackLeague University Series Stressed on International College Edition. I'm King Bartolome, one of the Growth Associates in StackLeague, and I'll be your host for this wonderful morning. We have an amazing resource speaker for this session today who will talk about how to successfully find a career in the digital landscape and also toolkits for winning a career in the new normal. But before anything else, we'd like to give you an overview of StackLeague, especially if it's your first time to join a StackLeague event. Everyone, please help me welcome Miss Casey Kalunod, our Growth Associate. Casey, are you there? Apologies, everyone, for right now we having a technical difficulty. All
Hello.
right, so I think Casey's here. Hi,
Oh,
Casey.
okay, that's good. So, uh, okay, let me share first my screen for the overview for Stack League. Okay. So, good morning again, everyone. I am Casey Kalunod. I will be giving po a short introduction of what Stack League is all about. So, ano po yung Stack League? Stack League is the Philippines' first year-round competitive programming league with a mission to develop programming leaders that inspire a nation into coding. Now, since it's a competition, there will also be prizes. So, ano po yung prizes natin? Launched last March 16, this pioneering programmer league is gathering over 5,000 tech talents across the country to test their coding acuity with the promise of nationwide recognition, thousands of prizes, hundreds of tech job opportunities, and invitation only events. Also, from 200,000 pesos, the cash prize pool is now at 300,000 pesos. This will also continue to increase. Now, Stack League wouldn't also be possible without our partners. We have our co-presenter Job Street, gold sponsors Workbank and Rakuten Viber, our silver sponsors Amazon Web Services and Caliber, our bronze sponsor Accenture, and media partners Inquirer.net and SparkUp. We'd also like to thank our community partners who help the league reach as many programmers in the country as possible. So here are our community partners. And for those of you who are new at Stack League, this is how the ranking system works. So you start at the bottom with 0 points, then you solve as many challenges as you can and earn the corresponding points. So the more points you get, the higher your ranking goes. And with a higher rank, the more opportunities are unlocked for you to access. Next is these are the supported programming languages of the league. We have JavaScript, Java, Python, C Sharp, and PHP. Next, we also have other highlights here at Stack League. We have the weekly ranking and treasure chest. So it was opened last September 5. Stack League treasure chest for team category is still ongoing. Team category was launched last July 11. Now you can compete with a team consisting of 3 to 5 members for points and prizes, where the total points of the team is the sum of all individual points earned by each member. And for the individual players, Stack League Playoff season has started last September 5. And here is a short clip of the Stack League Playoffs. Can we show a short video of the Stack League Playoffs? Thank you. So, StackLeague Playoffs is a single elimination tournament featuring all monthly qualifiers, and all the weekly top 10 StackLeague participants will automatically be invited to the monthly qualifier rounds. So, that's it for the highlights and mechanics of StackLeague. If you are up for the challenge, then see you in the league. Thank you, and back to you, King.
Thank you, Casey, for that introduction of Stack League. If you think that you should be part of Stack League, visit stackleague.com. And now for the introduction of our speaker. But before anything else, I would like to remind everyone to please don't forget to type your questions in the comment section. We'll be addressing them later at the Q&A session. Now, let me introduce to you our speaker. He is a senior software engineer at Pantina, a graduate of University of the Philippines majoring in computer science. He's on a mission to bridge the gap between technology and humanities for improvement of quality of life in various fields. In the past, he has worked in Paymaya as a software engineer for more than 3 years, proving his expertise and experience in the field. During his leisure time, he immerses himself in game programming and architecture. Let's give it up for Mr. Arel Latoga. Good morning, Sir Arel.
Oh, hey, am I live? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, good morning, Teston. Good morning, everyone. Oh, is my presentation already up? Hello? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, good morning, everyone in Teston. It's such an honor to be talking in front of you guys. So, okay, let me expound on the introductions. So, I'm Arel Latoga. Who am I exactly? So, I'm a senior backend engineer at Plentina Lending Inc. So, what is a senior backend engineer anyway? I'm gonna explain later. So, I do hobby game development sometimes. As you can see over here in this GIF, I made something that moves, and we're seeing what you actually literally call corner cases. I also have around entry level of Japanese language mastery. Entry gurai ii desu ne. And then I like birds. You can see here my pet bird. He already passed away though, but he's cute, right? And I like coffee. You can see my cute mug. It's shaped like a rat. And I believe in accessible technology. So, what is accessible technology? So, before we get to that, first we have to remember what tech is for. Who is tech for in the first place? So, one, technology is not morally ambiguous. You have to know that technology is, as I said, not morally ambiguous. Something is only as good as its wielder, right? So imagine yourself giving a gun to a bad guy, to a maniac. He's gonna shoot everyone, right? Because that's his nature. He's bad. But give a gun to someone who conscientiously objects to guns, and they're not gonna use it. So in the same vein, technology is only as good or bad as the ones using it and making it. So recent turning points in history involve technology. Remember the Cambridge Analytica incidents from a years back? We even have hackers who hack banks. That's technology in action. But at the same time, we have data scientists all around the globe working to make something for the better good. And we also have white hat hackers who look for vulnerabilities in companies. So so we have to be very mindful of the people we serve to so that we don't forget the things that we ought to do. At the same time, we have to be very careful of those people who are more than willing to exploit these systems we make because they will use it for their own gain. These people exist. We do not want them. We are not giving them a platform to do what they want. So, why do we need to care in the first place? Is it a complete waste of time thinking about these people? So, first, a win for our customers, the user is a win for you, the programmer, the developer, the engineer. It creates a very intimate relationship between the user and the services you just made. It instills confidence in the brand, in the company you are with, and it's gonna set off a chain reaction later on. So imagine yourself in the shoes of the user. If you don't like what you just coded, what you just made, then why bother, right? Why are you even getting paid to make something that doesn't work? But if it works, then give yourself a pat at the back. Public perception matters a lot. If people like what they see, then you could be sure that being customer centric encourages grassroots movements. People are gonna tell their friends that they like your app, and those friends are gonna tell their friends that the app is very good, and it's gonna set off that chain reaction I mentioned. This endless cycle is what we want as employees of companies we are in, right? So I've been blabbering for a while, and I haven't actually explained what accessible tech is. So, accessible tech is made for everyone. It's meant to serve anyone who needs it, and it does not pick who its users are. Accessible tech means that anyone can use it, and there are no barriers or gates to keep anyone from using it, financially, physically, or anything. Lastly, accessible tech addresses the needs of people without compromising other people, of course. So with that out of the way, what if you only want to make tech to pursue your own personal goals? What if you have a family to feed? What if you want to sustain your own lifestyles? What if you just want to save up for, let's say, studies or a new house or a car or some gadget, or you just want to travel around? Well, that is fine because pursuing your own personal goals and fighting for the greater good are two separate things that don't necessarily clash with each other. So now you want to be a better dev. You guys are students, right? In fourth year. You have a lot of time in your hands, other than for studies, of course. So you want to make use of that time to hone your skills. A lot of people will tell you to look up tutorials online. That is fine. Just enter the keywords that you want, and you're bound to get something useful. But of course, just be careful because not all tutorials are good. Some of them actually teach bad habits, so be wary of what you look for. Other people would tell you to read books. Personally, I like reading books, but the thing with books is that reading takes a lot of time, on top of having to actually buy the book that you want. You don't want to spend money, and that is fine. I mean, if you don't want to spend money, then you can just look for tutorials online. But the thing is, books give insight on things that would take a lot of time to find out, most especially in the industry. And here's advice that a lot of people wouldn't tell you about. It's okay not to actually do engineering work on your free time. It's totally fine. You can focus on your hobbies, work on your pet projects, spend time with your friends, family, or pets. All of these choices are completely fine. They're all valid. But you just have to remember that when it comes to work, you always have to strive to get out of your comfort zone and to be better. So now you actually want to make something. What should you do? So maybe you should do something like algorithm puzzles. So you can see over here the fast approximate inverse square root. Who here likes playing first person shooters? I like playing first person shooters. I like video games. So back in the days of Windows 98, processors weren't really smart. So developers had to work around these limitations. So yeah, going back to these piece of code, it looks scary, right? And even I don't understand how they're doing this, but in reality, it's just Newton approximation in action. Getting the inverse square root was vital for drawing graphics. It sounds scary, but yes, it's also quite clever. So StackLeague did mention about contests earlier, right? Maybe you can do programming puzzles in your free time and join. You can also do mobile app development. So maybe you wanna make something for Android. There's Kotlin or there's Flutter. Maybe you wanna make something for iOS. There's Swift or maybe again Flutter because it's multi-platform, right? You can also do some web development. So I'm not really a front end developer, so I'm not too familiar with the state of things in the front end side. But there's Vue.js or React, Angular, or Svelte. There are a lot of options out there, but you'll have to do your own research for this. Maybe you want to do game development. So like what I said earlier, I'm a fan of game dev. So maybe you can try Unity 3D or Unreal Engine, Godot, SFML, Monogame, or even Love 2D if you want to do something a bit hardcore with C++ or C Sharp. There are also other options like microcontroller development. You can make robots with Mindstorm or do some Arduino weekend projects. You can do OS development. If you like Linux, then you can make your own kernels. It's a bit frustrating, but it's very rewarding. Or maybe read some books on enterprise frameworks we use in the industry. This is gonna be useful later on if you manage to get a job that you just read on. So enough about what you can do as a student. What do I do in the industry? So I maintain code that's been made before by my colleagues. We have to make sure that code is relevant up to this day. And it's the same for other developers out there. You have to maintain this cycle of maintaining code. And on top of that, you also have to make new code to keep up with the feature requests from the business teams, from the product owners, and from everyone else. And like what I said about it being a cycle, you have to maintain the new code you just made. So yeah, why do we do this? Why do we maintain the code that we make? It's so that we can test for correctness. So like what I said earlier about knowing our users, testing for correctness is vital because if your code doesn't work, then why even bother, right? It's as if you did not make anything at all. On top of that, I talk to the team, I talk to business partners, and we always strive to make something better. So, right, what I said was a bit too general. So, what do I exactly do as a senior backend engineer in Pantina Lending Inc.? I'm a backend engineer. So, the backend engineer maintains the workhorses of the application of the company. So, these workhorses, they take it input, they process said input, and they turn it into something else. So, these processes are what you call business logic. So business logic are the features that the man, wants to keep the business afloat. So basically, business logic is what defines what your company does, what your services offer. So as a backend engineer, I also interact with solutions made by other companies. So we have business partners. For example, over here in Plentina, we offer cell phone load to our users. So we don't actually go to the telco and ask them upfront for maybe 100,000 pesos worth of load. No, we don't do that. What we do is we ask an external partner to supply load for us. This is what I mean by interacting with solutions by other companies. So the thing with the backend engineering part is that it is very abstract often and it is very non-visual. So it's a bit of a headache sometimes, but that's how it is. So maybe you want to make something more tangible. Maybe you want to be a front end engineer. Do you like doing Android apps? Or perhaps you're an Apple fan? Or maybe you prefer web? So the thing with being a front end engineer is that often, but not always, feedback is very, very visual. And you get to see what you just made ASAP. But don't get too lenient, don't get too cocky because mistakes can still happen. And you have to be very wary of the UX because, again, if the user doesn't like what they are using, if it's very clunky or slow, they might get lost. So, if you did your research, Plentina uses words like big data, data science. So, what is big data? What does it mean? So, when it comes to big data, there are scientists and engineers. These roles are two different things. They're not the same. So data scientists crunch the data. They take all the numbers, the words, everything and see if they can get trends or insights on the demographics and, most importantly, the psychographics of the users. Insights made by these scientists are used to improve services being offered by the business. What about the engineers, though? Engineers, on the other hand, they do maintenance on the data. They make sure that data is clean, the data is properly stored, and whenever the scientist wants to crunch some more numbers, then these numbers are easily accessible. There are a lot more differences between these roles, but they're a bit too many to count for this slide. So maybe you want to be critical of other people's work instead. Then maybe being a quality engineer is the perfect job for you. So you test systems made by other people. So who are these other people? They may be the back end, they may be the front end, maybe even the data engineers. Whoever is there in your team, you test what they made. You have to ensure that everything is in working order. So output made by these systems should be complete and accurate. You look for bugs and help squash them. Hence the title of the quality engineer. You call the shots on whether something is quality or not. And of course, you will have to talk to the business people a lot because you will be the one to define what is acceptable or not. You will have to define what features are okay, what features are not okay. And you have to reconcile the differences between the business people and the rest of the developers. So, I'm sure you're aware that there are other roles that I did not mention. There are systems engineers, there are software engineers in test, there are site reliability engineers, there's even full stack engineers. You might even have heard of quality assurance. Is that even separate from quality engineers? What if you want to make games instead? What are they? Are they front end or are they back end? So really, they're a topic for another time because there are a lot of roles in the tech world, and we don't have enough time or slides to explain them. Okay, so great. You are a programming god. You managed to make a very good score in Lead Code, or you won Stack League. You have an app in the Google Play Store and the App Store that you made in Kotlin or Swift separately, but they work the same. Or maybe you have a game in itch.io, or you have a website deployed at some domain, or you uploaded some dataset in Kaggle or whatever. So does that mean that you're fit for hiring? Should we hire you? No, not yet. There are a lot of other skills that involve non-tech, non-tech stuff. So what should you be aware of in the first place? It's not enough to be a genius in programming or being an engineer. First, you need to have some humility because humility will take you a long way in your career. First impressions do matter, most especially that you guys are in fourth year, right? You're about to graduate college. You're going to be entering your first job. Don't act like you know everything because trust me, you don't. There are a lot of things to learn that you probably did not in school. Listen to everyone you'll be working with because programming, making things, making products is a team job. It's not something you can do solo. It requires constant listening because good ideas come from multiple people, not one, but maybe two or three or four or 10. As long as it does not come from one person. Learn how to communicate with people you work with, even people not in the tech department. The opposite of communication is not miscommunication, but rather the lack of communication. So imagine that you're having a very hard time with your work. You just joined the company, but you don't seem to understand how to program something. Not talking about it with your seniors won't do anything. You have to ask them. Or rather, maybe what if you have a client or a product owner that laid out these requirements, but you don't understand these requirements? If you don't ask them about clarifications, then you're just wasting time. So trust me, you have to swallow your pride and approach the people that you have to talk to. You will be fine. Trust me, no one will think that you're stupid. No one is stupid in this industry. It's only correct to ask people. Yes, even if you're working in freelance, you still have to communicate. It's not, you don't get free passes just because you're working in freelance. So, okay, you want to learn how to be a better communicator. What else should you know? First, prepare your resume. So maybe a lot of you guys already have a resume since you're in fourth year and you're probably preparing to submit your resumes to your first employers. So maybe some of you guys made something like this. I'll let you digest the image for a few seconds. Okay, I've seen this kind of resume from time to time, and trust me, don't add self skill ratings. It doesn't make sense for the employer. So these skill ratings are a lie. They don't mean anything because what? What does being out of 10 mean? Does it mean that you're a pro in making a hello world? Does it mean that you can compile your code? Really though, it doesn't mean anything. It's completely arbitrary. Do away with those because the employer wouldn't understand what your ratings are in the first place. It does not reflect actual skill. And again, remember to include your portfolio. It can be in the form of a Git repository, a website you just deployed, maybe some apps you published in the Google Play Store or in the App Store maybe. Maybe you made a game in itch.io or you have some datasets in Kaggle. Whatever it is, let the employer know that you made something worth sharing. So here's an example of a resume that's a bit better. So you can see that there's a Git repository, there's a website, you clearly laid out the languages or frameworks that you know and some other miscellaneous skills in tech. You also have your work history over here. So the thing with the work history is that you guys are still in fourth year, right? Or at least graduating. You probably don't have a lot to put there. And that is fine. Completely fine. Trust me. But don't forget to put your internship experience and what you did in your internship. It it lets the employer gauge what your skills are. So okay, maybe you got invited for an interview. That's great, right? How should you prepare? Well, first things first, do research on the company you just applied for. I cannot stress this enough. Employers don't exactly appreciate it when they don't feel like you did research because it doesn't feel like you're being confident in getting a job in this company. They're offering you a job. They're offering thousands of pesos of their time so that they can talk to you. So at the very least, do your part because they did theirs. Next, turn your camera on. Like right now, I have my camera on, right? I don't know you guys, but I'm still trying my best to be presentable. So, along with that, you guys also have to look very presentable. Turn your camera on because it means that you're putting yourself out there. You really want that job. So, make yourself presentable, of course, like what I said. Wear nice clothes. Wash your face. Arrange your hair. See, I have nice clothes. I arranged my hair. So just imagine that you're in an interview on site with the interviewer. They wouldn't like it if you were smelly, right? Or if you wore very ugly clothes or if your clothes weren't ironed out properly. Employers wouldn't like it if it looks like you just woke up from a nap. It means that your interview with them was probably nothing for you. It's probably something that you thought of last minute. We don't like it. We don't like it when you do that. So now you just got hired. You're now an employee. Congratulations. So what should you do? What should you learn now that you're an employee? Now that you're employed in a company that you like? Always be willing to learn things. I told you guys earlier that you should have some humility. Be humble in your work. Always be willing to learn You just graduated college. You still have a lot to learn, and you probably don't know a lot yet. Next, respect your seniors. They've been in the game a lot longer than you have, and they will teach you things as long as you're willing to learn. Again, see bullet point number one. Three, sometimes we know that we are right, but we are scared. So don't be afraid to voice out your opinions. Again, good ideas come from multiple people. So if you think that you make a very good point, then voice your opinion. Tell them what you think. It's completely fine. Next, I cannot stress this enough. As in, I really cannot stress this enough. Know your limits as an engineer, as a worker in the workplace, as an employee. Because so the internet the internet likes making jokes about the legendary Rockstar 10 times developer. You don't have to be that developer. You just graduated college. We all start somewhere. It's fine not to know anything yet. Why? But yeah, I guess some of us are very hungry for knowledge. I am very hungry for knowledge, and probably you guys also are. But why do we have to know our limits? It's so that we don't burn out. So the thing with burning out is that, okay, if you get burned out, you will start performing worse. If you start performing worse, you'll get lower ratings at work. You won't get to deliver what you need. And if you don't get to deliver what you need, it's gonna set off a chain reaction in the company, and you might miss some deadlines. So the employer might put you in investigation or something. When the only thing worse than performing worse is that you might start to hate your job. Trust me, a lot of people started hating their jobs because of burnout. I have to admit that I've I've got I've been burnt out before, and it's not a very good thing to go through. So really, know your limits as an engineer and don't burn yourself out. So what do you have to do so that you don't burn yourself out? It's okay to have time for yourself. Also, most especially after work. You know, a lot of people will pressure you to do some overtime work. Don't do that. You're not obliged to do OT. Trust me. If people force you to do OT, then that's completely wrong. Move out of the company. I'm so sorry. And you don't have to do some hobby programming either. So in your free time, maybe you can do stuff like playing with your pets, biking around, skating, knitting, crochet, baking, other things that aren't programming. It's completely fine. You can still be a good engineer at work without doing engineering work at home. So, okay, I've been talking about what you guys can do for a while, but what's Plantina? What do we do? What does Plantina mean? What are we? Who are we? So we target the untapped market. So did you know that because of COVID-19 there are around 18 million poor and vulnerable households. So when we talk of untapped markets, we're talking about unbanked, people who have no access to banks. We're talking about low income families, people who were affected by the closure of jobs, companies because of the pandemic. We're talking about these 18 million people vulnerable, just people who are having a very difficult time right now. So what do we do for these people to untap? We offer them microloans. What are microloans? Microloans are loans that are often little in value for most people, maybe for you, maybe for me, but for the untapped market that we talked about, it can mean the difference between life and death. It can mean having food to put on their tables for the next few days. So we offer cell phone load, convenience store goods, even groceries, which is cool, right? So what does Pantina mean? Pantina. So this is what it looks like in our app. We have some offerings like pharmaceuticals, groceries, cell phone load, convenience store goods, even office supplies, office and school supplies. Isn't that nice? But yeah, it's so cool, right? We offer money and goods. So what kind of devs do we have? There's the backend, me. We also have the front-end team working very hard to make great apps for the users. We also have the data science guys to get insights on our users to also further improve the product that we have. We also have a lot more going on under the hood, but again, we don't have enough time or slides to talk about these. So, seems like we're cool, right? What if you wanna join us in Plentina? Are we hiring? Yes, we are hiring. So you may see our open positions over here in www.plantina.com/careers. So, do we have any questions from the audiences, from the students we have? Yes, Unicycle 101. Plantina. Plantina. Yes, you got that right. Anyone else with questions?
All right, so thank you so much, Sir Arel, for that fruitful and knowledgeable talk. I hope Sir Arel has imparted useful knowledge for you to leverage career opportunities in this new normal. Now we open the floor for questions. So while waiting for the questions from our audience, we prepared some questions to ask Sir Arel just to kindle this conversation. So, Sir Arel, we have one question from Miss Casey. What are your go-to reference material that can be used in improving as a developer?
Okay, that entirely depends on what kind of developer you want to be because first and foremost, we have backend engineers like me who work on the backend and like what I said earlier, backend is mostly non-visual. So maybe you can do some algorithm exercises. So what if you want to be in mobile instead? What if you want to hone your mobile skills? So maybe you can make some apps in your free time, see what kind of patterns there are being used in the industry. And again, you want to do some data science work. So we have a website called kaggle.com. A lot of people post data sets there in Kaggle. Maybe you can try crunching some data there and make some insights on your own. So I hope that answers your question. If you think it's not enough, then please ask some more.
All right, thank you, Sir Arel, for that. We have another question from Sir Alan Godfrey Sagon. Hi, Sir Arel, current internship coordinator of our BSIT students. I just want to ask what should be the skill attributes of an IT student at least to survive or get employed in a tech industry?
Okay, I may be a bit biased over here because I work in a loaded job. So skill attributes. I'm a backend engineer. So one of the things that I would be looking for is that students should know how to code first and foremost. So you don't have to practice frameworks ASAP. You don't have to do that. Leave that to the industry. But for now, since you're students, just make sure that you can make very good code. I cannot stress enough to practice your algorithms because along the way algorithms is something that will ultimately benefit all fields in the tech industry. So what if you made the for loop that's nested 3 times? That's not gonna fly with us in the industry. You have to somehow optimize it to make it better. And that's one skill attribute, yes. And again, like what I said, always be humble, have some humility. Always be willing to learn and learn how to communicate. You are no man is an island, right? And Rome was not built in a day. So always keep an open mind when learning. And are we accepting interns? Just send your resumes and we'll have a look.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Earl, for that answer to that question. You know what? It's really true that, especially when you're graduating, you don't have to like overlook, or you don't have to uh, overwhelm yourself or overthink of what you should do when you go to the professional world. You just have to open yourself up for improvement.
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
so next we have a question from Unicycle 101. Do I
Oh,
have to
sorry. I think
ah,
we skipped a question from Mr. Jai Chitan.
okay.
What are the
For
pros and
you,
cons of being a backend engineer?
yeah, okay.
Okay, interesting. So I'd say this is gonna be a bit biased because I'm a backend engineer. Pros, you're not restricted to one language. All things are transferable to other languages and frameworks. So you've heard of flavors of the month in the front end world. You have Vue, Angular, React, and people are often arguing, "Oh, what language or framework should I study?" But in backend, it doesn't matter. Just you just have to know that you should do this, you should do that, and you shouldn't do this or do that. You just have to keep the fundamentals in mind, and it's gonna be transferable. But of course, I might have undersold front end a bit. In front end, of course, there are also skills transfers. But yeah, pros of being a backend is you don't have to worry about paradigm shifts. Cons. What is a con? Okay, the big con is it's not visual. You're gonna be having a very big headache when debugging. I hope that answers your question. Okay,
All right.
so next.
Thank you so much, Sir Arel, for that one. We have a question from Unicycle 101. Do I have to master or memorize all the commands of a programming language to say I can do a language? How good do you have to be to say you're competent in a language to put in a resume?
Big myth. No, you don't have to master everything. So, if you ask me if I can master what references or templates in C++, no, you don't have to know all those things. You don't have to go so in depth with the language to call yourself competent. You just have to respect the fundamentals. Again, what are the fundamentals? Data structures, design patterns, good code, clean code. You don't have to be very intimate with a language. Like if I tell you that if I tell you that function if I tell you that if you return a function in Node.js and did you know that it doesn't actually keep the type inferences? You don't have to know that. You don't have to know the very intricate details in programming. Again, we all start somewhere. That is fine. But as long as you can respect the fundamentals, you will be good and you will be competent. You don't have to say that you're competent in your resume. Just put that you have some familiarity with it. But again, you're just maybe you're still a senior. You don't have to worry about competency for now. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Thank you, Sir Arel. I hope Unicycle 101, Sir Arel, has imparted a knowledge with regards to your question. Another question from Sir Erickson Renya. Hi, sir. What are your career advice for students to pursue programming or development or other related IT careers?
Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Also, it's gonna be frustrating at the start. You you're gonna be seeing people who make nice things, maybe nice apps, nice games, nice data sets, or nice whatever, and you will feel frustrated that you don't get it at the start. That is fine. You just really have to persevere. You just have to keep an open mind because again, we all start somewhere, and maybe somewhere is a very low for you, and maybe for others somewhere is quite high already. That is fine. A lot of people have different experiences, learning experiences, so maybe just just be persistent in what you want to do. I hope that answers your question, Sir Erickson Rania.
Thank you, Sir Earl. That's true that you really have to. That's a good advice that you really have to take it slow. Don't compare yourself to others because you have your own timeline.
Yes.
Okay. Next question is from Hosh. What is your advice when we get burned out with our job?
Okay, like what I said earlier, people will force you to do overtime work, OT. You have to maintain your strict 9 to 5. When the clock says 5 p.m., no questions asked. Close your laptop, go elsewhere. Do something that you like. Maybe you can play video games. Maybe you can draw. Maybe you can write. Maybe you can bake some food. Maybe you can do some exercise. Really, you just have to set boundaries for yourself. Work is often 8:30 to 5:30. So do your work 8:30, leave work 5:30. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to open emails. You don't have to answer messages from your colleagues. Completely fine. Trust me.
All right.
Does
Thank you,
that answer your
Sir
question?
Arel, for that insightful answer. We have another question from Sir Jefferson. Are there any materials you recommend for learning programming, opinions on popular online courses, for both questions, either free or paid apps?
Okay, this is kind of a conflicting question for me because remember what I said earlier. You can just Google whatever you want, but not all tutorials online are good. So let me tell you first a very interesting story. Back in the early 2000s, PHP was the hot thing. It was the hot language for the internet. It was the internet for quite some time. So a lot of people wanted to jump into PHP, and then those same people made tutorials regarding PHP, and it kind of set a very bad chain reaction of bad devs making bad tutorials that teach bad habits, and in turn making more bad devs. So you can of course Google, but be wary of the tutorials that you're looking for. And opinions on popular online courses. Well, we have Harvard's CS50. It's free. Everyone can take it, and well, it touches up on some fundamentals of programming. And what about paid? I'm not too familiar with the courses in Udemy, but before I have tried courses from a cloud guru and Pluralsight. They're very insightful if you want to get into the cloud computing industry like AWS or GCP or Azure. And of course, there's also books. Books take a lot of time to consume, but they're worth it in the end. But just be wary because books can get old. There are books made in 20 back in 2015 and they may not be relevant anymore. I hope that answers your question, Jefferson.
All right. Just to summarize, that's right. We really have to filter or be mindful of what we are reading or what we are searching in the Google, especially. So we have another question. Uh, since For those who wanted to ask questions, you can type it in our comment section. And for now, can we just ask this question from our team? So, given that technology is rapidly evolving, how do you encourage innovative ideas?
Encourage innovative ideas. So, like what I mentioned earlier, we have to be very mindful of the users we serve. So, innovation doesn't we shouldn't we shouldn't invent problems to solve because that's going to be self-serving, right? We have to look for problems that already exist. So, here in Plentina, we serve the untapped market. So these untapped market people, they're actually the majority of all the people in the world. But most banks, most financial institutions, they only serve a higher percentage of the population, mainly being the ones who are rich or middle class. What about the lower classes, the lower income families? Isn't it unfair? So we have to serve them. And at the same time, we have to look for problems that need to be solved. You shouldn't invent problems because, again, that's going to be self serving. So if you want to be innovative, then address the needs of the people first and foremost before you make something that only addresses yourself. I hope that I hope that was very insightful. It was kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. That's really insightful and really helpful to our future developers or programmers because it gives them the insight on what you should really do when you're trying to serve people or serve the problems of the people. So next we have another question from our team again. So for those who wanted to ask questions, I'm just reminding everyone to please comment it in our YouTube live, and Sir Arel would be happy to answer those questions. So here's another question: how did you learn to embrace risk taking, if there are any in your profession?
Okay, so being in a startup, there are a lot of risks: business risk, tech risks, and other kinds of risks. So you really just have to steel yourself and go through them, because again, we all start somewhere. There's no magic potion that would make you suddenly invulnerable to pain or pain points. So you have to ease yourself into it, but you also have to learn that um not everything is your fault. Again, you are a team. Startups are a team. You are more than a team, actually, because all of you are taking this big risk, right? So if something happens, then you just have to accept that you made something terrible or bad. You messed up somehow, but don't don't take it personally. It's cool.
All
Risks are
right.
part of the workplace, I guess.
All right. So we have our last question from Vincent Morris. With technology always evolving and improving, how can we stay relevant in the field?
Okay, let me iterate. Um, we have these so-called rockstar developers, 10x developers. They always say that, oh, I am already an expert in this new thing that just got released 1 hour ago. We are not unfamiliar with these people. And you don't have to be that guy. So, yes, technology always evolves and improves, but it doesn't mean that the thing you're working on is already deprecated or old. No, you're still relevant. You never get irrelevant unless you're working on COBOL or mainframe, which is, old. But really though, don't worry about it, because change does not happen overnight. Evolution of tech does not happen in 1 week or 1 day even. You have enough time to adapt to new technologies. You just have to know when to use them, because we have blockchain, right? It's fairly novel, but you can do your own research about this, but it's evolved to a point that we have severe environmental effects when implementing blockchain. So yeah, just be wary. Oh, maybe we can squeeze in one more question from Hanazono over here.
Okay, so another last question. So this is going to be our last question for this session. So from Hanazono Ovo, what are your thoughts of game development here in the Philippines?
I'm not the very best to ask about this, but we have groups in Facebook. You can look up IGDA Philippines. We also have GDAP. They're a bunch of game devs, very cool game devs. So, what are my thoughts? I personally think it's still budding. I'm not really a part of the professional game dev industry, but from what I can see, it's going quite well actually. We have very good releases like Lawmage or Love Esquire, or even the devs of Academia Simulator. He is now in Paradox Interactive, which is cool. So I believe that we have talent. We have enough talent. Oh, did you know that the Philippines made some assets for The Last of Us? So yeah, we do have the industry. We have a budding industry. We just have to look for them because they're quite shy.
All right. Okay. I think that sums up our Q&A session. So again, thank you, Sir Arel, for all the lessons and inspiration you've shared with us. And again, thank you for joining us at StackLeague University Treston International College Edition. If you also know someone who should be part of the league, invite them to register now at stackleague.com. See you at the next StackLeague event. Have a good morning ahead.